to my apartment. It was the first time I truly felt the weight of being far from home. Chapter 2. First Days. The first few days were tough. I struggled to communicate, even for simple things like ordering food or asking for directions. I had never felt so out of place in my life. The language barrier made even the smallest tasks feel impossible, and I missed the comfort of speaking my own language. I spent my evenings in my apartment, wondering if I had made the right choice in moving here. Chapter 3. Making Friends. One day at work, I met Anna. She had been living in the city for a few years and understood how difficult it could be at the beginning. She invited me out for coffee, and for the first time since arriving, I didn't feel alone. Anna shared stories of her own experience moving abroad, and it felt comforting to hear that I wasn't the only one who struggled at first. From that day on, Anna became my guide, helping me learn the language, introducing me to her friends, and showing me the hidden gems of the city. Little by little, I started to feel more comfortable. Chapter 4. Learning the language. Learning the language was the biggest challenge. Every time I tried to speak, I worried about making mistakes, but I knew it was the only way I could truly adapt to my new life. I signed up for language classes, and though it was difficult at first, I pushed through. Slowly, I began to understand more conversations around me. I could order my coffee without feeling nervous, and I even started talking to the cashier at the grocery store. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Chapter 5. A Familiar Stranger. One evening, I ran into Sophia, a colleague from work. We hadn't talked much before, but we ended up sitting together at a cafe. Sophia had also moved here from abroad, and she understood exactly what I was going through. We talked for hours, and by the end of the night, I felt like I had found another friend who understood this journey. From that day on, Sophia and I became close, and I felt a little less alone. Chapter 6. Missing Home. As much as I liked my new life, I couldn't help but miss home. The hardest part was being away during holidays. My family would send me pictures, and I would feel so far away. I tried to stay connected through video calls, but it wasn't the same. Sophia noticed and reminded me that feeling homesick was normal. "Home is what you make it," she said one evening. It made me think differently about what home really means. Chapter 7. Finding my place. As time went on, things became easier. I learned the language well enough to get by, and I started to enjoy my daily routine. I found a cafe I liked, a park where I could relax, and even a few favorite restaurants. The city that once felt foreign now felt like something I could call my own. My friendships with Sophia and Anna grew deeper, and I realized I wasn't as alone as I had thought. I had found my place here, even if it wasn't what I had expected when I first arrived. Chapter 8. An Email Home. One day, I decided to send an email to my family. I told them all about my new life, about work, my friends, and how I was adjusting. Writing it all down made me see how much I had grown. Even though I still missed home, I was happy with the life I was building here. Chapter 9. An Unexpected Visitor. A few weeks after sending the email, my sister messaged me, saying she had booked a flight to visit. I was excited, but also nervous. It had been so long since we'd seen each other. When she arrived, though, it was like no time had passed. We spent the week exploring the city. I showed her all the places I had discovered, and for the first time, I was the guide. It felt good to share my new life with her and to see the city through fresh eyes. When she left, I realized how important the visit had been, not only for her, but for me too. Chapter 10. A Taste of Home. After my sister's visit, I started thinking about home more. I missed certain things, like my mom's cooking and the way my neighborhood sounded. So, one afternoon, I decided to cook a dish from home. It didn't turn out exactly the same, but it reminded me of my family. That night, as I ate, I realized that I didn't need to be in my hometown to feel connected to it. I could bring pieces of home with me, wherever I was. Chapter 11. Finding Comfort in Routine. As the months passed, I settled into a routine. I no longer had to think twice about where to go or how to speak to people. My work got easier, and I felt more confident in the office. Even though there were still difficult days, I started to feel like I belonged. The city, which had once felt so strange, now felt like home. I wasn't just an outsider anymore. I was part of the rhythm of daily life, and that felt good. Chapter 12. A New Opportunity. One day, my boss offered me a new project. It was a big responsibility, and I knew it wouldn't be easy. But I saw it as a chance to prove myself. The project involved working with local clients, which meant I would need to use my language skills more than ever. I was nervous, but I accepted the challenge. As I walked out of my boss's office, I felt a mix of excitement and fear. But I reminded myself that this was exactly the kind of opportunity I had moved here for. Chapter 13. Facing New Challenges. The project was harder than I expected. The clients had high expectations, and I struggled to keep up at times. There were moments when I wondered if I had taken on too much, but I kept pushing myself. Every day I learned something new, whether it was a language skill or how to handle difficult situations. Little by little, the project came together. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine, and that felt like a victory. Chapter 14. A Sense of Accomplishment. After weeks of hard work, the project was finished. The clients were happy, and my boss praised me. It was a moment of pride. I had not only completed the project, but I had proven to myself that I could succeed here. To celebrate, I went out with Sophia and Anna. As we talked, I realized just how far I had come. The city that had once made me feel lost was now a place I felt connected to. Chapter 15. Homesickness Revisited. Even with all the progress I'd made, there were still days when I missed home deeply. One night, after a long day, I found myself looking through old photos from home. The homesickness hit me hard. I decided to go for a walk to clear my head. As I wandered the city streets, I reminded myself that missing home didn't mean I wasn't happy here. I had built something special in this new place, and that was worth holding on to. Chapter 16. A New Sense of Belonging. Over time, I stopped feeling like an outsider. People in my neighborhood recognized me, and small interactions became familiar. The barista at the cafe knew my order, and my neighbors smiled when they saw me. It felt strange at first, this sense of belonging. But it was a good kind of strange. I realized that this city had become my home, not because it reminded me of where I came from, but because I had built a life here. Chapter 17. Unexpected Connections. One afternoon, while I was at a local market, I overheard a conversation in my native language. It had been so long since I'd heard it spoken naturally in a public place that I instinctively turned to find the speaker. To my surprise, it was a couple who had just moved here. They looked lost, a little like I had when I first arrived. I hesitated for a moment before walking over and introducing myself. It felt strange at first, offering help to someone else, but soon we were talking like old friends. I gave them tips on navigating the city, places to visit, and how to handle the challenges of living abroad. Seeing their gratitude reminded me of how far I had come since my own first days here. Chapter 18. Helping Others Adjust. Over the next few weeks, I stayed in touch with the couple. We met up a few times, and I showed them around the city, much like Sophia and Anna had done for me. It felt good to be in a position to help others. In helping them, I realized how much I had learned and how much the city had become a part of me. I knew the shortcuts, the hidden gems, and even the small quirks that made the place unique. I found a new sense of pride in being able to share that with someone else. Chapter 19. Looking Back. As I approached the anniversary of my arrival, I found myself thinking about the journey I had been on. The challenges, the homesickness, the victories, and the moments of doubt. It all came flooding back. I had come so far, and the person I was now felt different from the person who had stepped off the plane a year ago. I had learned more than just a language or a culture. I had learned resilience. I had built a life here, and while I would always miss home, I knew that I could thrive in this new place. Chapter 20. A Decision. Around the same time, I received an email from my family. They wanted to know if I was thinking about coming home anytime soon. It was a question I had been avoiding for months. Part of me missed home, but the other part of me had fallen in love with this new life. I realized that it wasn't a simple decision. Home wasn't just a place anymore. It was wherever I chose to make it. I spent the next few days thinking about what was next. Would I return, or would I continue to build my life here? The answer wasn't clear yet, but I knew that whatever decision I made, it would be the right one for me. Chapter 21. The Visit Home. After months of thinking, I finally made a decision. I was going home for a visit. It had been over a year since I last saw my family in person, and I felt it was time. The flight back was long, but when I landed and saw my family waiting for me at the airport, all the distance disappeared. Seeing the familiar streets, hearing the familiar sounds, and eating food I had grown up with felt comforting. But something had changed. This place didn't feel like home in the same way it used to. I started to realize that while I missed my family, my heart was now tied to two places. Chapter 22. A Different Perspective. During my visit, I noticed small things about my hometown that I'd never paid attention to before. The narrow streets, the way people spoke, and the rhythm of life, it all felt different now. I started to compare it to my life abroad. It wasn't that one place was better than the other, they were just different. But seeing my hometown from a new perspective made me realize how much I had grown and changed over the past year. Chapter 23. Old Friends. While I was home, I met up with old friends. We went to the same places we used to go, and it felt like nothing had changed. We laughed, shared stories, and talked about our lives. But deep down, I knew that things had changed. They were still living the same lives, while I had moved on to something new. I found it hard to relate to their stories, and they couldn't fully understand mine. It wasn't a bad feeling, but it made me realize how much my time abroad had shaped who I had become. Chapter 24. Saying Goodbye Again. As my visit came to an end, I had mixed feelings. It was hard to say goodbye to my family again, but I also felt ready to return to my life abroad. The strange thing was that leaving didn't feel as hard this time. I knew that I could always come back if I wanted to, but for now, my journey was continuing in my new city. Chapter 25. Settling Back In. When I returned to my apartment abroad, everything felt familiar again. The streets, the smells, and even the sounds of the city felt like home. It was strange how quickly I settled back into my routine. My friends welcomed me back, and life returned to its usual rhythm. The visit home had helped me see something important. I didn't need to choose between the two places. They were both a part of me, and I could carry them with me wherever I went. Chapter 26. Embracing Challenges. With renewed energy, I dove back into work. There were still challenges, of course. Some days the language was difficult, or I felt out of place in certain situations. But instead of seeing these as obstacles, I started to embrace them. Each challenge was a chance to grow, to learn, and to improve. I no longer saw the hard moments as something to fear, but as opportunities to prove to myself that I could handle anything that came my way. Chapter 27. A New Hobby. To take my mind off the stress of work, I decided to pick up a new hobby, photography. I had always loved taking pictures, but I'd never taken it seriously. Now, I had the perfect subject, the city. I spent weekends walking through different neighborhoods, capturing moments of daily life, architecture, and nature. Through the lens of my camera, I saw the city in a new way. It wasn't just a place I lived in. It was a place full of stories waiting to be told. Chapter 28. The Power of Routine. As the weeks passed, I began to appreciate the power of routine. Waking up at the same time, going to the same cafe, and taking the same routes to work brought a sense of calm to my life. Routine helped me feel grounded in this new place. It gave me a sense of control. Even when things felt overwhelming, I realized that while routines can seem boring, they can also create stability, especially when living far from home. Chapter 29. A Weekend Getaway. One weekend, I decided to take a short trip to a nearby town. I needed a break from the busy city life, and a friend recommended the town for its beautiful landscapes. The trip was exactly what I needed. I spent my days hiking through mountains and my evenings sitting by a peaceful lake. It gave me time to reflect on my journey so far, and I returned to the city feeling refreshed and ready to face whatever came next. Chapter 30. New Responsibilities. Back at work, I was offered a promotion. With it came more responsibilities, but also more opportunities. I would be leading a small team, and I felt both excited and nervous. It was a big step in my career, and it showed that my hard work was paying off. The promotion also came with challenges. I had to manage people from different backgrounds, which wasn't always easy. But it pushed me to improve my communication skills and to be more understanding of different perspectives. Chapter 31. Building Stronger Connections. With my new role, I found myself building stronger connections with my colleagues. I started to appreciate the diversity in our team. Each person brought something unique to the table, and learning to work together made us stronger. As my relationships with my colleagues deepened, I felt more connected to my workplace. It wasn't just a job anymore. It felt like a community. Chapter 32. Celebrating Milestones. As the year came to an end, my friends and I decided to celebrate. We had all come a long way since we first met, and it felt right to mark the occasion. We organized a small party, and for the first time, I realized just how much my friendships here meant to me. We shared stories of our challenges and victories, and it felt good to know that we had supported each other through it all. Chapter 33. An Unexpected Call. One evening, I received a call from my family. They had some big news. My sister was getting married, and they wanted me to come home for the wedding. I was excited, but also conflicted. Work was busy, and I had just taken on new responsibilities. But I knew that family was important, and I didn't want to miss such a special occasion. Chapter 34. Balancing Priorities. For the next few weeks, I struggled to balance my work responsibilities with the need to plan my trip home. I didn't want to let my team down, but I also didn't want to miss my sister's wedding. In the end, I realized that it was possible to do both. I spoke to my boss, and we arranged for me to take a few days off. It wasn't easy, but I made it work. It was a reminder that while work is important, family will always come first. Chapter 35. A Special Day. The wedding was beautiful. Seeing my sister so happy made the long trip worth it. I reconnected with family members I hadn't seen in years, and for a few days it felt like I had never left. But I also noticed how much I had changed. While I was happy to be with my family, I couldn't help but think about my life abroad. I missed my friends, my routines, and the city that had become my second home. Chapter 36. Returning with Gratitude. When I returned to my apartment after the wedding, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. I was thankful for my family, but also for the life I had built abroad. I realized that it was okay to have two homes, two places where I felt connected. Instead of feeling torn between them, I embraced the idea that both were important parts of my life. Chapter 37. New Challenges, New Growth. The months following the wedding brought new challenges at work. I had to deal with difficult clients, tight deadlines, and unexpected obstacles, but each challenge helped me grow. I learned to stay calm under pressure, to communicate more effectively, and to rely on my team when things got tough. It wasn't always easy, but I was proud of the progress I was making. Chapter 38. Looking Forward. As the second year abroad came to a close, I started thinking about the future. I didn't know where my journey would take me next, but I felt ready for whatever came my way. Living abroad had taught me so much about myself, about the world, and about what it means to truly call a place home. I was excited for the next chapter, knowing that wherever I ended up, I would carry these lessons with me. Chapter 39. A Chance Encounter. One afternoon, while sitting at my favorite cafe, I noticed a man who seemed to be searching for something. He looked around, checking every corner of the cafe before his eyes met mine. He smiled awkwardly and walked over to my table. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" he asked, holding up a book that looked very familiar. It was the same book I had been reading just a few weeks ago, about travel and self-discovery. We started talking, and what began as a casual conversation quickly turned into something more. His name was Alex, and he had recently moved to the city for work. We talked about our shared experiences of adjusting to life abroad, and before we knew it, hours had passed. Chapter 40. Something New. In the days that followed, Alex and I met up a few more times, and each time I felt something new growing between us. He had a calm energy, and his stories of life before moving here made me laugh in a way I hadn't in a long time. It was unexpected, this connection with someone who had only just entered my life. But there was something about Alex that made me feel at ease, as if we had known each other for much longer. I wasn't sure where things would go, but for the first time in a while, I was excited about the possibility of something new.
Introductions and Small Talk. Formal Greetings.
Good morning, Professor Austin. How are you doing?
Good morning, James. I'm doing well. And you?
I'm great, thank you. This is my friend Emma. She is thinking about applying to this college. She has a few questions. Would you mind telling us about the process, please?
Hello, Emma. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm more than happy to speak with you. Please, stop by my office next week.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Professor. Thank you so much for helping us.
Don't mention it. Hopefully, I will be able to answer your questions.
Language Notes. The greetings good morning, good afternoon, good evening are used at different times of the day to greet people. Good evening is often used after 6 p.m. or generally when the sun has set. Good night is not a greeting. It is used when leaving a place or group of people. Thank you and good night. Good night and see you tomorrow. When people meet in the United States, it is customary for them to shake hands. A handshake should be firm and usually lasts for about 2 to 3 seconds, which allows enough time to say, "Nice to meet you." Don't mention it is another way of saying you're welcome. The phrase "you are welcome" is more formal. However, responses such as "don't mention it," "no problem," "happy to help" are informal ways of responding to a thank you.
Introductions and Small Talk. Informal Greetings and Farewells.
Hi, Helen. How's it going? Fine, thanks. And you? Just fine. Where are you off to? To the library. I've got a history exam next week and need to start studying. Ugh. Oh, no. Well, I'll see you later then. Good luck. Thanks. See you later.
Language notes. Hi is an informal way of saying hello. Notice that the I sound in hi is extended to show that Jane is very pleased to see Helen. How's it going? Is an informal way of saying, how are you? Fine, thanks. And you? Notice the rising intonation on and you. This shows that Helen is interested in what Jane has to say. Where are you off to? Is an informal way of saying, where are you going? Notice the falling intonation since this is an information question, not a yes-no question. To the library. Notice that Helen does not say, I'm going here, because that information was already established in the question, where are you off to? Oh no, is a way of saying, I sympathize with you, or I understand you are not happy. See you later is an informal way of saying goodbye. Introductions and small talk. Formal introductions.
Mr. Wilson, I'd like you to meet Dr. Edward Smith.
It's nice to meet you, Dr. Smith.
Pleasure to meet you too.
Dr. Smith is an economist. He just finished writing a book on international trade.
Oh, that's my field too. I work for the United Nations.
In the development program, by any chance?
Yes. How did you guess?
I've read your articles on technical assistance. They're excellent.
Language notes. Mr. Wilson, I'd like you. Notice the rising intonation on Mr. Wilson, which is used to address someone. Listen for the D in I'd like. This means I would like, which is very different from I like. I'd like means the same as I would like or I want. Dr. Smith is an economist. Notice the stress on economist. This content word has new information, so it is emphasized. There are 4 syllables in economist, with the stress on the second syllable, economist. He just finished writing. Just means the very recent past. Just is usually used with a simple past verb because the action is complete. However, it can also be used with the present perfect. He's just finished writing. Development program. Since these 2 words make a compound noun, the main stress falls on development. By any chance means the same as possibly. Notice the rising intonation, which is used in yes-no questions to confirm that something is true. Introductions and small talk. Informal introductions.
Who's the tall woman next to Barbara?
That's her friend, Mary. Didn't you meet her at Steve's party?
No, I wasn't at Steve's party.
Oh, then let me introduce you to her now. Mary, this is my friend Jim.
Hi, Jim. Nice to meet you.
You too. Would you like a drink?
Sure, let's go get one.
Language notes. Whose is the contracted form of who is. It is pronounced the same way as whose, but the meaning is different. Didn't you meet her? Notice that this is a negative question. Charles thought that Jim had met Mary before. He is now surprised that Jim does not know Mary, and so he uses a negative question to show his surprise. I wasn't at Steve's party. Notice that the emphasis here is on at. Although prepositions normally have weak stress, in this case, at means there. I wasn't there. Mary, this is my friend Jim. This is a friendly way to introduce two people. It's common to follow this with Jim, this is Mary. In this case, Mary says, "Hi, Jim," first. Nice to meet you. This is a typical response after you've been introduced to someone. Sure is often used in informal conversation to mean yes. Introductions and small talk. What time is it?
What time is it? We're going to be late.
It's 7:15. We're on time. Don't panic.
But I thought we had to be at the restaurant by 7:30 for the surprise party. We'll never make it there with all this evening traffic.
Sure we will. Rush hour is almost over. Anyway, the party starts at 8. But I do need help with directions. Can you call the restaurant and ask them where we park our car?
Language notes. It's 7:15. This phrase is one of the most common ways of stating this time. It means it's 15 minutes past 7 o'clock. Another possibility here is to simply say it's 7:15. In general, you can say it's 1/4 the hour. How do we know the time of day? Look for context clues. Evening traffic. In the dialogue, Natasha and Tony are going to a surprise party. They need to be on time. Therefore, there is an element of stress and urgency. When someone is stressed for time, you can use expressions like, "Don't worry, don't stress, we're fine, we will be on time." Natasha thinks the surprise party begins at 7:30. There are two different ways to express this time. You may say simply 7:30 or 7:30. Rush hour is the time of day, usually in the morning and evening, when traffic is heavy because of people commuting to and from their workplace by bus, by car, by subway, on foot, etc. Introductions and small talk. A telephone call.
Hi, Alice. It's John. How are you?
Oh, hi, John. I was just thinking about you.
That's nice. I was wondering if you'd like to go to a movie tonight?
Sure, I'd love to. What's playing?
I was thinking about that new comedy, Lights Out. What do you think?
Sounds great.
Okay, I'll pick you up around 7:30. The movie starts at 8.
See you then. Bye.
Language notes. Hi, Alice. It's John. Hi, it's, is a casual and friendly way to say hello on the phone. Although it's means it is used to mean I am here. Oh, hi, John. Notice the rising intonation here. Alice is excited to hear from John and is very pleased that he called her. I was wondering if you would like to. This is a polite and indirect way of asking, do you want to? John is nervous and does not want to appear too direct or bold. Notice how the question goes up at the end, which shows that he is not overly confident. Sure, I'd love to means yes, I would love to. Notice that Alice is very enthusiastic and friendly. She wants John to feel comfortable about asking her out on a date. I was thinking about. What do you think? Again, John does not want to appear too bold. He wants to give Alice a chance to suggest a movie. Sounds great is an informal way of saying that is a good plan. I'll pick you up is an informal way of saying I'll come to your house so that we can go together.
Introductions and small talk. Can you say that again?
Hello? Hi, Stephanie. How are things at the office?
Hi, Luke. How are you? Can you please stop and pick up extra paper for the computer printer?
What did you say? Can you repeat that, please? Did you say pick up ink for the printer? Sorry, the phone is cutting out.
Can you hear me now? No, I need more computer paper. Listen, I'll text you exactly what I need. Thanks, Luke. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Stephanie. Sorry, my phone has really bad reception here.
Language notes. There are a few ways to express a lack of understanding and to request additional information. The most common ones are stated, but you can also say, "Excuse me," or simply, "I can't hear you." In a more formal situation, try saying, "I'm sorry," or "I beg your pardon," with a rising intonation. When asking someone to clarify information, try saying, "Can you please repeat that? Can you spell that for me? Can you please write down the address for me?" Cutting out describes a difficulty in understanding a caller due to poor cell phone reception. If you are having trouble understanding the caller, you can also say, "The line is breaking up. I am losing you." If the phone call is disconnected because of poor reception, you can